Hey, what's up, guys? Just coming to you quickly because really want to discuss something that's going on that's disturbing. As if all this shit has not been, excuse my language, disturbing. But my hair really looks like a wig today. It's so thick. I'm sitting in traffic, so I decided to just come forward and tell you it's the same old, same old. I told you every 6 weeks or so, you can feel the vibe change. And I mean, I've moved several times, which is why I'm so just dreading moving again, because I know that this doesn't stop. The harassment doesn't stop when you move. And these people are so arrogant and so immature. And, when you're dealing with police corruption, so corrupt. So corrupt. And it's not just the police, it's federal agencies, these wannabe feds, and all of these people. I told you, I'm from Virginia, and we have quite a few law enforcement agencies, and most of them are in Northern Virginia. People think they're in D.C., but we really call it the DMV, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, because all of them pretty much are in those areas, the majority being in Virginia. So, Northern Virginia has a lot of these NCISs, a lot of the feds, a lot of the Pentagon. The Pentagon's there, is not in DC, etc., etc. But the thing is, again, I know we're going back to the 80s. Just basically, I think mentally people are in that mindset where they're dumbed down. Okay, and that's a sociological term. I'm not going to keep telling you that. When I say dumbed down, it means that they technically took society, especially the youth, stopped educating them well, or they educated them in specific areas according to what they thought was going to be important for dismantling, okay, the current system. Now, when I say that, I don't mean the system that's not working. I mean the system that was working. For instance, having these people come in with agendas. Every time there's something that's good, there's always something negative, because they'll take it one step further. There's always, when there's quiet, when there's unity, there's always another discussion. There's always another fight. It has to be colorism. It has to be, when you're dealing with oppressions, the battle of the oppression, the oppression Olympics. It's got to be something to create tension within the black community, because you cannot be completely satisfied with just being happy the way you are. And I think that's something that's disturbing, and people ought to start realizing that. And a lot of these celebrity cultures are participating as well, because they get money from people when they aren't very well educated. I hope you guys know that. I'm not saying all performers are not well educated, but a great deal of them are not. So the more you act stupid, the more they get paid. And the more, I've seen all this gossip and stuff come up every 5 minutes. When these people don't have gossip, they don't make money. I've seen one of these vloggers say, I really don't like gossiping that much, but I do it just because it makes me money. And I think that's sad. So that's point number one. Point number two, we ignore, because we're taught to ignore, harassment when it happens in our own communities. For instance, if there's harassment of African American women in particular, speaking of, suppose something's going on in my family, and I decide that I want to report it, and me being an activist, me being as educated as I am, me being the way that I look, these idiots are going to try to pretend not to believe me, because they're corrupt. And everywhere I move, and I know damn well it's not something that is going to be coincidental. I'm having trouble breathing, I have asthma. Last night I'm sitting at home, and an ambulance is in front of my place, and it turned out to be one of my neighbors or something. And it was mysterious. I had trouble breathing because cigarette smoke, cigar smoke, I'm allergic to all of that. But as soon as they left, that smoke in the room subsided. I had the door open in the back because I can't stand it. I could never date or marry someone like that, because I couldn't breathe. I literally have asthma, so it's like, anyway, what's pissing me off is just a lot of strange things. Still, the things in food, for instance, I purchased some wine from the store, and the wine bottles were sometimes tasting funny, and I don't drink that much, but you know, I do like a good red wine every now and again. And toxic. And then the company changed the bottle so that, and I think they knew this, because, you know, some of these areas, they have crazy men, like they're putting things in the food. And why do I say men? Because I mean, I don't see a woman doing this unless she really has some type of severe problem. It just looks like a sexual dysfunction. It just does. It looks like it. It feels like it. Not to mention, you know, all of this stuff was the 80s, and it was before my time, because in the 80s I was really too young. I was a kid in the 80s, literally in elementary school. So I don't know what happened. I just know that at the end, by the time the 90s came and I was in high school and all that jazz, they were scared to death, because black folk where I came from in Virginia got mad and decided to start throwing hands. Okay, now these days they want to pull out a gun because they're cowards, and that's the whole transition. I don't even know if you really want to say 70s, you know, 70s, 80s, because it's like early 80s, because even by the late 80s they had stopped most of this crap. You know, you're talking about the drug epidemic in the 80s and all of that, and you know, I hate to blame the CIA for everything, but I really believe that they're a part of any type of drug epidemic. You know, I think that every time you hear another new drug that's coming to the United States, they had something to do with it. And these dumb DEA wannabes, fensters, and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not talking about the real ones, because like I say, from an area where I know they'll put on some damn fatigues and bust down your freaking door if it's serious. You know what I'm saying? We don't have a bunch of clowns, FBI clowns and stuff. I mean, we did back in the day, but again, it must have been some type of reform where it cleaned it up for a while. And honestly, it was not that good, the cleanup, but it was better than where we are now. So as we start to look at where we're at and where we're going, I see a lot of problems. I see, if we're getting close to 80s culture, I mean, we're on the verge of being nuked here. You know, every major country, I'm talking about all of them, Iran, Russia, you name it, you know, has nukes. Or I should say, everyone that has nukes, that's a major country we need to be concerned about. And instead of being concerned about that, we're talking about gossip, we're talking about this, that, and the third. I mean, and then we still have this fake police harassment, which to me is a misnomer, because they're working for somebody. Somebody's paying them. Most certainly $30,000, $40,000 a year is not going to encourage them to harass somebody if they're not getting paid. I've always known that. They're always able to be bribed. They're sort of like judges. Some judges are cool. Some judges are bribable. A lot of cops are bribable. That's a problem. Sexual harassment is a huge problem. Rape is a huge problem by police officers. You know, I think that what we need to do, you know, like I was talking the other day, they had 4 police officers rape a 12-year-old child. This is depravity beyond measure. I mean, we're talking like the lowest of the low. And, you know, again, we see the serial killers and all this kind of stuff coming out. I mean, when we start looking at the racist aspect of humanity, right, we see a lot of this stuff have a racist beginning, and by the time it actually gets mainstream, so to speak, they'll try to downplay it like it wasn't racism that started it. And you'll see black men who participate in it because it's intersectional. But I'm telling you, my grays are really showing, guys. Time for me to get some henna, but some nature tone or something. But anyway, as we start to understand the systematic formation of racism, right, we understand that it's intersectional. Let's start with that. And I'm not teaching a class, I'm just telling it like it is. It is intersectional for black women, for indigenous women. It is intersectional, right? It is no in between. However, what happens a lot of times is those things are ignored in lieu of he's a black man, you know, or it was even this area or any area that I'm in. Really, in the past, I think any area that I've been in, black women have been participating in this type of harassment, and it actually protects white supremacy. I've never seen it go that low. Normally it would go straight to like black man and then, sorry. Go straight to black men and that's it. Now, we got women so insecure about themselves, they're sitting here participating in their own demise. That to me is outrageous. Being a single black woman of a certain age, 48, I've seen a lot. And I've never seen it be that bad. Never. And where we come from, I mean, it's a sin for a black woman to be stupid. They are stupid in some areas. They're really smart in some areas. However, it's bad. You know, we're back to insecurities about gender. I know you guys who are new to being grown-ups and things like that think that gender is something that's, you know, new. But it really isn't. Sylvester in the 70s, all that kind of stuff. I mean, most people knew Luther Vandross was gay in the 80s. I think they knew. They just never said anything. The difference, again, is the predatory nature of gender, where we're seeing a lot more transgender agendas. And I was looking at something the other day, and I had this epiphany, right, about the rainbow. And I was looking at it specifically in reference to what's called a rainbow goddess. She's a very, very, very little known goddess of Greek culture. And you know, I do philosophy, I do psychology. I couldn't make up my mind where I wanted my degrees to go because I have so many different interests, you know, and I decided on an MPH in psychology, but cultural psychology. But the thing is, this rainbow goddess, the Greek goddess, she was literally changed, which never happens in mythology. And I think it's very important. Never, ever, ever changes. They don't change gender like that, okay? They'll change from one female goddess to another, one male goddess to another as culture progresses, like from Greek to Roman and so forth. They don't ever change gender. They changed her gender to Hermes. She was the original messenger goddess, the rainbow goddess, okay? Literally, it represents the chakras, the 7 chakras, but people call it the rainbow. But literally, if you're looking at it philosophically, that's what it represents. So it's very important if someone is representing the chakras, you think you would have heard of it. And then quickly she was changed to Hermes within the Greek culture, which is very unusual because Greek cultures worship female goddesses. And she should have been right along all of the others, Aphrodite and so forth and so on. So why was this particular one changed to a male, the rainbow goddess? And some people are calling it the gay goddess and all of this and so forth in the LGBTQIA communities. However, that's not true. She was a female goddess, and it's hard pressed for me to think that even back then, transgender, even though they had a lot of hermaphrodites in early Greek culture, it was very common. That's just the way their bodies grew. They still probably didn't have a lot of people who were transsexual and transgender. Okay, not as far as a goddess is concerned. It was just male and female. That's why they had male and female gods and goddesses. So why? Okay, and there's a lot of research that I'm doing regarding that rainbow and how it's being transformed literally into something it's not. You see what I'm saying? When I'm telling you your chakras, which are connected to your whole entire system of being, is being transferred from a woman to a man when you're a cisgender woman. And that's important. It's not because someone is discriminating against someone who's gay or transgender being the same thing. However, it's important if you recognize it as far as the changes that are happening that are transformative. Remember the funeral for Queen Elizabeth? And everybody kept saying, oh, it's a rainbow. And then there was one broadcaster that said, it's a double rainbow. It's a double rainbow, isn't it? And they make it so obvious that they're trying to say something. And what about this recent storm we had in Florida, Ian? And a rainbow came out right after the storm of the guy who did a reporting. Look at this rainbow. Okay, so some people feel that the rainbow is also a portal, because the old Greeks used to say that this goddess used to ride, I think her name is Iris, I'm going to double check, ride upon this rainbow and send messages, and she used to aid the angels and the goddesses when they were distressed. Basically, when a goddess was in distress, she'd show up and she'd fight the enemy. She'd do some type of, I wouldn't call it magic. I would just call it energy motion. And she'd free this person from this distress. So she's very important. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. You've heard of all of these other goddesses, right? You've heard of gods and goddesses all your life. You've never heard of Iris, the rainbow goddess. Never. From Greek mythology. And that's important. The reason why. So when we start thinking about why that messenger goddess, this is a messenger goddess. This is, if I said it was Hermes was trying to send a message to us, her is me, right? Her is me's, meaning she is he, if me were he, right? Her is me. If she was sending a message and you weren't able to get it, and she was sending you a message about your chakras transforming and you actually becoming a better person, you evolving, you having to go through that portal that she uses to get to, another realm, another dimension to evolve yourself. And you weren't getting that because someone purposely switched the character that she was and the whole entire idea of womanhood. Wouldn't you be a bit concerned? I think so. And so that's important to me to try to get across. I have nothing against the LGBTQIA community. I understand some people are upset, some non-cisgender women, because they can't have children. And when I was, honestly, too much information, but I'll say it anyway, TMI, excuse me. When I was sexually assaulted, one of the things I thought was that this person of ignorance was going to be someone. It's one of three things, because there's a lot of evil people. But I mean, one of the things I thought was this person was someone who could not have children. I am nearing the age where I'm not going to be able to have children, any longer. And it does concern, fertility does concern women. Yes, this world and having children and all this stuff does, it does concern people. But for people who are envious, who are sick, who are demented, who are mentally ill, to deprive you of something that, every woman deserves, that's the worst form of sexual assault that there can be. I don't know if necessarily one form of sexual assault is worse than the other, but you understand, to take away even that from you, to ensure that you'll never have another child. Of course, I have my daughter Jasmine. When I gave birth to her, she's 27 now. When I gave birth to her, that was an easy birth. I'm not in any way taking that for granted. My adopted son, I'm not taking my children for granted. But it's just the fact that someone would want to take something away from you because of the fact that they're envious of you. There are so many. There's gangs, because they have this thing now where they're killing children, which is sad because they're children themselves. Some of them aren't even 18. Shut the door.
Yeah.
And then they have, these white men who are basically white supremacists, and the white women that come underneath them. So you can understand. Then you have the police department, which may be any or all of these things, who are also corrupt. When you're an activist and you're an African American woman, you're always looking over your shoulder. Okay, you're always wondering, and I don't think I want to live my life like that, because I think that they get off on that as well. Now, you heard about that serial killer, obviously, in Stockton, and there's that possibility now as well, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, because that was the 70s and 80s. But, there's a lot of people here that are in need of a great deal of mental health. And when you have to go down a list of people and you don't know any of them, and this excludes any guys that could have dated in the past, and I would hope they're not mentally ill, but mental wellness is something that we all need. And I think that people are making it more difficult for you to actually mind your own business and be healthy. You can't even sit in home anywhere you go and breathe. This tells you they're violating human rights, they're violating civil rights, and they think that it's funny because no one cares about black women. I'm telling you, you could be the most prominent black person in the world, they do this to you and they'd ignore it. And that's fucking disturbing to me. You know, and then they're gonna come back and say, oh, well, I saw her with a cigarette in her hand. I heard she could have been using something. I didn't know what it was. That's bull. That's bull. If I die tomorrow and there's something in my hand that looks like I was smoking it other than a vitamin stick, somebody sit there and made that shit up. There is no way in hell. There is no way in hell. And that's disturbing to me how easy this is to do, to lie on someone. It takes so much patience. These people are arrogant. They're out of their freaking minds. You have to think about it. Anybody who also participates in this type of behavior is just as guilty as those participating. The light is awful in here today. I don't know what's going on. I apologize. But anyway, I gotta go. I'll talk to you guys again later. But that's just something I've said a million times. A million times. You know, honestly, I don't want to be offensive to the LGBTQIA community, but I'm not walking on eggshells. If you have issues and you're a transgender person with someone who can have children, or who's a woman who has natural body parts, you need to squash that. Squash it. If you're someone, hey, if you're a man who's envious of a woman who is a cisgender man, you need to squash that too. If you're somebody, I don't know why this light is so bad. If you're somebody who, you know, genuinely is just jealous and has mental health issues, you need to go get therapy. All of these people need to go get therapy. And I can't say that if you can't afford it, we need to work on programs so people can get therapy. There's no shame in that. You know, you're making the people that are helping you go get therapy, and there's no shame in them doing that either. But if I have to sit here and look over my shoulder every 5 minutes because somebody is so, you know, darn envious that they just can't control themselves, and they're doing all of these immature things that are basically so sickening. You know, it's sickening and literally sickening. I was literally sick the other day. I don't know what caused it. I haven't been sick like that in years. You know, not since I had my daughter and had morning sickness. And I thought maybe it was something I ate. And I just bought some milk. You know, I mean, I'm literally taping up things in my own refrigerator. Okay. Anyway, I had to go. This is my son.
I had to tell something she eat.
Mm-hmm.
She was eating eggs, but her maid stomach hurt.
Bae,
sorry.
I'm a lacto-pescatarian, so I'm very, very specific about my diet. And I have food allergies, so I don't eat certain foods anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I was very ill, and I just, you know, I make mistakes, but there's a lot of stuff I'm just like, I see on the shelf, I'm not touching that. You know, I had to contact a company the other day, OK Africa, because I love their leave-in, but the tops are always off when you get them in the store. And in certain areas, people are sick. And they're putting things in these products. And that's what I felt like what had happened to that wine. I'm quite sure that's why they changed it to a metal top.
Or the mouse? Something.
Anyway, I gotta go, guys. I'll talk to you later. I look a mess, but I'm tired,
Bye.
so I'll get over it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.